Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are continuing our top 100 games of all time. This is 30 through 21, the third best segment of this top 100. Yeah, this is gonna be a great one, I think, because this is to me kind of where things start shifting that I feel like kind of matter. Because I feel like if like games that are in your top 10 move, they're gonna probably fall in this 30 through 1 section. Like I don't really see if it's like, oh, this game was my number 4 game, and then it moves to, 80 the next year.
Right.
But I could be completely wrong. Uh, we shall see. But for this segment, I have 4 that rose. No, sorry. I have 5 that rose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. 5 that rose, 4 that fell, and 1 new.
I have 4 that rose, 4 that fell, 1 that stayed the same, and 1 new.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Well, let's get started with one that rose for me. This was because I actually played it quite a bit this past year, actually. It rose from 77.
Wow.
So it rose 47 spots. And this is because this game, while I thought was completely dead in the water, ended up getting a pretty massive expansion. Like one reason for the expansion is kind of all right, but it was still a bunch more content. And this game is It's okay. I was like, it's
I
not
just say I
showing up for
clicked
me.
it.
Is Cosmic Encounter. This is the like they released like another edition, like another cover for it. So you might see a different
Mhm.
Cosmic Encounter, but they're virtually the same. Uh and what's also interesting is this game was 58 in 2020. So this is kind of one of those polarizing games where if I play it, then I mean it's a fantastic time. I absolutely love this game and everything that it offers. But if I don't play it, then it's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, Cosmic Encounter, cool. Yeah, anyway, moving on. But Fantasy Flight just found ways to keep this game relevant over the years with especially how old this game actually is for its like first edition to what it is now. I did not expect Fantasy Flight of all companies, the company who owns this game, who creams, on Marvel, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings. They have no other IPs to make an expansion for this and a big box expansion. And it wasn't even like this Kickstarter, hey, or this weird like promo, get 2 unique races for a limited time. That's just kind of the shit I expect
Mhm.
nowadays. Nope. It was a massive expansion that if you owned the base game, that would be the only expansion you would really need because it just gives you a little bit of everything. And then if you already own everything, it just gave you even more of that stuff. And the best part about this is one of those games that should not work in any way because it's completely like every race is completely different. And I don't remember how many there are at this point. Too many. Well, not too many, but too many.
Right.
And it's amazing because like no one, I mean, if people are bitching about, hey, these races are in balance, the designers are like, we know. Like they don't even try. And I think that it's because this is so player focused.
Right.
Like if someone gets a alien race that is clearly better than everyone else's, cool. They have to win by themselves because no one is allying with them, or someone might just because their power is going to help them win. It's I don't know. It's balanced for me. I love it. I love like every game I've played of this. I mean, I've had stinker games, but I've noticed that the games that haven't worked is because the players around it didn't really want to play or they didn't like it.
Right. Right.
So that's going to be kind of the experience you get. I highly recommend it. And if you're going to play it and you're going in it for the first time, do not take this seriously. Otherwise, you will be upset. I've been there before where I went in and I'm like, everyone just ganged up on me, and I'm like, oh, okay, now
Yeah.
it's on. Yeah, fantastic game, Cosmic Encounter.
A lot of these games where there's a lot of negotiations and stuff like that, you almost have to take not too seriously because,
Yeah, unless it's diplomacy,
well, and
which is
that's the
why I
thing.
won't. That's
Right,
why I
right.
won't play it. Because I know, especially because that game is supposed to take forever, and I know, like, it's like that's a stress-filled day I don't want to deal with. Like, I don't want to be playing the for all day and then just have someone betray me at the end. It's like, well, I'm going to betray you in real life by killing you and your family.
I'm gonna go cut your tires.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to your dog. It's weird.
All
He's
right.
like, let me win this game. And then you text them like you know how like people will like secretly write message. You text them a picture of their dog hostage. Hmm, that's weird. Yeah. Anyway, you should probably just agree with me.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah.
that gets dark. All right. So my number 30 is a game that has been on my list for the last few years. Um, and it went up 3 spots, but it is a new version of the game. So it kind of this so, like took over the spot for the gamer games that was came from, I guess. And we have played this not too long ago, and that is Hoplomachus Remastered. Um,
Is this also I don't want to ruin like if it's not you didn't combine them.
No, Victorum is a completely separate thing. So,
Okay.
and then I hadn't played it before making this list a whole lot. So that's
I
why
see. Okay.
it's not on this list yet. Um,
Gotcha.
but
Probably won't be either, right?
oh, it will be at some point, yes. But anyway, this one it takes Rise of Rome and and Lost Cities and takes those and their expansions and kind of takes the best parts of them and kind of combine them and put them into one box. They put fresh art on the chips because it was just clip art to start with those early ones. Because Hoplomachus, the original, was Chip Theory Games' first game that they kickstarted. So you could tell when you had the old stuff because the art was kind of really cheap looking and stuff.
Hmm.
And then they decided to do this Victorum, the solo only campaign kind of style of this, and then they decided to do this remastered along with it. Um, and updated the art, and it looks awesome. All the art is different for each faction. They updated the dice. I like the swords better than having like the little H because it was just a dice that had an H on it for a hit. And when the
Okay.
first versions, they put the dice now. It's neat that way. Um, and this is pretty much. I mean, we played it as the 2 player competitive, but this is one of those you can play it multiple different ways. There's solo. There's the 2 player cooperative. There's 1v1. You can play all the way up to a 4 person competitive if you wanted to and stuff. And it more or less comes down to area control a lot of the times. Um, but you get a lot of factions in the game, uh, and it's got a lot of key terms. But I don't think when we played it because it was the first time you'd played it, it wasn't that
Hmm.
difficult to really learn. You know,
No.
um, I
Especially if you're coming from Too Many Bones and Cloudspire.
right, yeah. This is very much simpler than those. There was a lot of key terms to look at, but they were pretty simple to understand. Um, but yeah, I mean this one is up here. It's always going to be around here. Victorum, I like better than this, mainly because I like playing solo. So I
Hmm.
could see Victorum jumping over this easily in the next year or so, probably.
Guess you could combine them as well.
Yeah, all the heroes, all the stuff that's in this box can be used in Victorum as far as the stuff, and vice versa. So it just adds more. That's why I mainly got both of them because I had all this stuff anyway, and I was like, do I buy the new stuff, the remastered, or just keep the old stuff I had? And ultimately, since the old stuff wasn't going to be compatible with Victorum and stuff because of the terms and the all that jazz, I just got it and sold that other stuff. But yeah, this one to me is probably one of the easiest, I would say, to grasp and play of the chip theory games.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're wanting to dip your toe in chip theory and you don't mind competitive stuff or whatever, go with this for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems so far removed from the others that I feel like even if you, yeah, it's like if you kind of want a really good production, you can jump in with them. But I think this is like not even close to Burn Cycle, Too Many Bones, or Cloud Spire.
Well, no, and I mean, I guess
So
I was meaning by difficulty of picking it up. If you were, I mean,
I see.
Victorum would be the way I would go in this
Yeah,
ID.
this would be the closest game to play, and then next level, I'd say get Cloud Spire because
Yeah,
they're both kind of head-to-head competitive. Um, Cloud Spire is a lot more predeterministic of who's going to win what. This is not. So yeah, it is what it is. I don't even remember what I rated it. I think I gave it like a five. Like,
yeah, you didn't jump too high on it, but
no, it was
I'd
more, it
be
was like, okay, I rolled dice.
yeah, I'd be interested to see what a co-op because I've done this, played this solo, but doing a co-op with it, like two-player co-op, if that would how that would change. It almost may make it more of a too many bones kind of thing,
Yeah, that's
possibly.
true. That would probably
So
be more fun.
yeah. So anyway,
All
that's
right.
my number 30.
Cool. Cool. My number 29 was new last year. It was 33, so it actually rose 14 spots. Um, why am I dumb? It rose four spots. You know what? Go to the next bucket.
Yes.
Go. I don't even know if it's the right game. Here it is. Yes, okay. Just this time it was a true. I did truly fat finger. I don't know why. I yeah, because I can still see unfathomable on my sheet, so it rose four spots. Uh, hey, this is unfathomable. It's basically Battlestar Galactica, except you can afford it. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, if so someone actually commented on my discussion for this, and they were very nice about it. They said, "Fuck you." You know, no. He said he had Battlestar Galactica, just never played it, and then sold it, then got this, and he's like, "I'm gonna play this." And he's like, "Thank you, or for not for helping me not regret my decision to sell Battlestar Galactica." I mean, to each their own. Honestly, the reason why I had Battlestar Galactica before this, and I had played it honestly before I ended up getting this copy, um, and it's fantastic. Like BSG is so good, but I sold it because I was like, well, I mean, Lovecraft works for me. This plays the exact same way, has the same exact beats, and if there's gonna be any type of support, it's gonna be this one. So might as well just get on the new hotness. It is a, if you're not familiar with either, it's a cooperative game with a trader element that there will for sure be a trader, if not at the beginning of the game, halfway through the game, someone will become a trader. And in this, you're trying to get to Boston uh, through various actions that will give you travel cards that you're trying to get a certain number of those cards to eventually, move forward. And the entire time you don't know who the trader is, and you have events that you have to try and beat where everyone puts in a certain amount of card types, and then there could be the trader that makes those fail, and you have four resources. If any of those hit zero, then the good guys lose and the bad guy wins. It it just hits that perfect element of trader, I think, especially if you want a big multiplayer game. I think this plays up to six, which I have played a six-player game, and it's just as good, if not better, honestly, with six than it is with like four. Like, so four, five, or six is just that sweet spot for this game. And yeah, like I think it's a really good theme, a really good like kind of like pasted on theme to replace Battlestar Galactica. I couldn't think of any other way they could have done it, so I think kind of having the Cthulhu mythos going over it just works. So so yeah, that's my number 29. It rose what I believe to be 14 spots, but it's actually four.
Yeah, yeah. I still love Battlestar Galactica. I want all the Battlestar stuff, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I just don't want to pay a fortune for it.
Oh,
I'm
exactly.
hoping I can find it on the cheap because that's really the best way for me to play
You,
these styles of game is with that theme. I think.
yeah. That's one of those just right place, right time. Someone just doesn't know what they have and
Yep.
they are getting rid of it. And I just don't like I'm not in love with the Battlestar theme, so I mean this appeals to me a little bit more.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And base game to base game, like this is like $40 cheaper.
Hmm.
So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but yeah, that's my 29.
All right. Well, my number 29 is the one on this list that was 29 last year, so it stayed the same.
Okay.
Previous the previous years to that, it was 10 and 8, so it's kind of it's hanging. This one I don't know. I'm assuming it was on your list. I don't know if you talked about it or if it's higher. But this is another Fantasy Flight game that we both have everything for, and that is Mansions of Madness.
Nice.
Um, so this one, I mean, it's this has been on lists for years. I mean,
Hmm.
this is the best edition of this set. The original one versus Mania Mansions of Madness was just a kind of a mess. Uh, then they came out with this one using the app, which is awesome. And being able to
Hmm.
control this stuff, they're able to just put in missions, that you can pay for to do stuff. And the missions can range from a couple of hours to a really, really long time. You can make these the whole the one I can't remember what it's called, the one where you're going all over the city and
Oh, it's like the Who Done
stuff.
It one.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, but it's a long one. And this is just one of those games, that the app does a good job of setting the mood with stuff. And this one kind of made that splash with the app.
Hmm.
A lot of other games have used this app and have tried to build upon it, with like Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. But this one's still, there's so much crap for it. You've got the
It's called,
Cthulhu.
I don't know if you could see it, but
I
it's called
can't.
Rising Tide.
Okay.
Rising Tide's the one that is uh 240 to 360 minutes.
Yeah. So this one, because I never really was a big Cthulhu or Lovecraft kind of fan. I'd played Arkham Horror and stuff like that, and this one kind of was my Lovecraft game. This one and Elder Sign.
Hmm.
Nowadays that's changed. I have the LCG and Cthulhu Death May Die, stuff like that. But this one's just still really solid even this day. I haven't played all the content yet, just because there is a lot of setup to it,
Yeah,
and there isn't a good storage solution for everything yet. For
not for
everything,
everything.
right? Right. That's why I was making fun of. But but yeah, I've said this on multiple times talking about this game. A lot of times when I have the opportunity for this to play it, I set up a table like in my living room and have the big TV there, and I hook it up through my TV to have all the sound and like the
Yeah.
and everything on the TV, so people can be part of it and see it and stuff, and it just adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah,
But,
no, 100%. It was interesting because on the cover, I noticed that who the designer for this game was. I was like, Nikki Valens, that looks familiar. And she's done like Eldritch Horror and the Arkham and a lot of like stuff for Fantasy Flight. But the reason why I recognize the name is because she is the designer for Artisans of Splendid Vale,
gotcha.
which is great. That game is fantastic. But I was like, oh, hey, I recognize that name. But yeah. Nope, this one's fantastic. Only thing that bugs me is there's no update to that fucking storage solution.
I know you'd think because they had it. The one that you have has everything but the last expansion fits in it, right?
Yep. Yep. And normally they're good about making like an update one, but yeah, nope. I guess fuck me. Like that's a $200 sink that, and I've tried to figure out ways to get it to fit. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Maybe I'll go on Etsy at one point and buy someone else's that does fit everything and then just sell this.
You just need to buy a 3D printer and make your own.
That's true. That's true. It's definitely something I've considered.
Yeah,
Uh, but until then, yeah, this game is fantastic.
that'll work. And you haven't talked about it at all, have you yet?
No, no, that's why I
Okay.
was trying to move on.
Okay. Gotcha. I didn't know if you had or not, or if it
Way
even
to
made.
ruin the rest of the series because this is
So
my
your
new number one.
so
It's
your number
never been my
28
number one.
is your number
No,
28 is?
it's not this.
Yeah.
Game sucks actually. All right, my number 28 is this is kind of a combination just because while I think both of them are they are completely different games, they're in the same universe that I didn't just want to talk about two different games, especially because I would almost rather play them together than separately. Like I'd play
You're,
one just to gear up for the next one.
you're cheating
Uh,
again, aren't you?
how is this a cheat? It's literally called Role
Yeah.
Player. And
I,
then there's a little moniker that's not even little. It's like bigger than the actual name called Adventures. You know how like Pandemic has like those things where it's like the pandemic's really little?
yeah.
Like they kind of did that here. Like Role Player is kind of tiny. So glossed over all this game would just be called Adventures. It's like
Yeah.
how fucking lame of a game title. We should do top 10 worst game titles, and it would probably be that is Role Player Adventures.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, no, the reason why these are the same is they rose, I guess. I don't even know if I had Role Player Adventures or Role Player. I did not. So Role Player Adventures is technically new to the list, but Role Player was 41 last year, and in 2020 it was 48. So it's rose, and that's obviously mainly due to the adventures being added. Role Player is a fantastic game by itself, uh, where you are creating a D&D character, which is something that I'm very much involved with like an RPG. Been playing D&D for years at this point, actually about to move away from D&D and go to Pathfinder. But with Role Player, they just got better and better with each expansion of like, okay, well now you make the character. Okay, whoever did that the best gets points. Well, now you actually go out and fight monsters with the next one. Now there's a lot more items and familiars you can get. Oh, cool. Perfect. Yeah.
She went above and beyond for you.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's me.
So
I
this
don't
this
even
was Role Player Adventures was my 32.
Okay,
Strictly
that's right.
adventures because I only put one game on a number instead of two.
Yeah, well, shut up. I don't have a rebuttal. Um it's well here's the thing is I would almost like I said, I would almost play role player to make characters for role player adventures.
Hmm.
Like it's I like I would never play with the procedurally generated ones, not procedurally, the pre-generated
Yeah.
ones because even though there's a bunch there, and I think that you can get adventures and just play it and be fine. There's something more about the storytelling and the role playing aspect of if you're playing and make actually made your character. But what's also cool about adventures is it makes you play role player a little bit different because obviously in role player you're playing to win. It's a competitive game.
Hmm.
Well, you're not going to do that if you know that you're making characters for the game. Like it's like, oh man, that I really want that item. It's like, yeah, but like I'm going more the rogue route, so that would work best for me. And it's like, okay, cool, you can have it. But you obviously still want to do well in role player because that's going to set you up a little bit better in adventures. But it's just fantastic. The way adventures works, I was a little bit concerned with it being broken up into like modules, kind of how it is.
Right.
and I actually have finished the campaign, and it was easy. Like, there were times where we would be like, oh man, that's going to be super hard. And then we get all the dice, and you could just play a bunch of cards and really mitigate that to where you're almost guaranteed to win. I think we lost one encounter in the entire 11 like modules. And that was only because we weren't really paying attention and just kind of went head first into an encounter. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you beat our ass. Other than that, yeah, it is a little bit simple. And I don't know. I think I don't know how much your choices actually matter. That's not to say that they don't, but since I haven't replayed it, I have no idea at the overall consequences of doing one thing over the other. But at the end of the day, it was a wonderful campaign experience and I had a blast. And I know that there are choices there and there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Uh, I just don't know what that is. So yeah, that's my 28 D&D. Oh, sorry, role player.
It's like 28 A and B.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, this is gonna happen again, like later on down the line. I just don't want to fill up my top 10 with the same game.
Oh yeah. Yep, yep. I hear you. All right. So my number 28 is a game that has been on my list for the last handful of years. It is actually past its predecessor. I used to really enjoy the predecessor to this game. This game came out. It has the predecessor's name really tiny on it.
Uh,
We just talked about that. It was 66 last year, so it's jumped
dang.
38 spaces. Um, and it's been around that spot. It's been around this area the last few years before that, and that is Empires of the North with the little Imperial settlers up there on the top.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, see, this would be a game if you had Imperial Settlers and Empires of the North in the same number. It'd be like, okay, those are completely different
right, right,
games.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this one, because we played it, uh, I think the first time I played it was at your place when it came out, and
Yeah.
and I played it. I liked it. I liked it. I've kind of bounced back and forth between it and Imperial Settlers. Like I like this better than Imperial Settlers, and then there was a time where I liked Imperial Settlers better than this. And I think after all the everything is said and done, I think when the cream has risen, this is the better of the two
Yeah.
for consistency, just because of having the action selection. You have your own decks, and they're
Mhm.
really different decks, and they play really well. They've done all the solo scenarios. I haven't messed with the Lighthouse stuff yet, the solo campaign thing that came out for
I
this,
have.
but yeah. So it's they've just did really really good work with this one, to the point that it didn't kill the game it's based on. I mean, I still own both of them because I still play the other one. It's not a bad game. It's actually was on my list earlier on this top 100, but there's definitely a big divide in them now. Like,
Hmm.
like this one's going to hit the table more than the other one for sure, just
This one's also
because.
just like because Imperial Settlers, what ultimately, because this did kill Imperial Settlers for me as I played more of like each one multiple times. This one was just so much easier to get to the table of being like, oh, hey, okay, which one of these factions do you want? Oh, like I played this years ago when I went down to Texas with a coworker, and I was like, "Oh, which faction do you want to be?" She's like, "Oh, okay, that faction looks cute." I'm like, "Cool, here you go," and
Mhm.
just boom. Instead of being like, "Okay, well, like let's try and add in all these expansions," it's just this one's so clean, and they didn't muddy it up with expansions. It was just, "Here you go.
Yeah, here's
Here's
a new decks.
yeah,
It's like
and that's it."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the other thing I think is one of the big things about that. I mean, the action selection wheel is awesome for this style of
Yeah,
game, and then also being able to keep resources. Like that
yeah,
was a big thing. Imperials. That was what aged Imperial Settlers in my mind. Like that
That's
was
true.
cool back in the day, but then that's kind of an old thing. It's like,
It's like,
building
why?
yeah, yeah. So and it was
Got 10
constantly, you're
food.
constantly digging,
Don't need that.
right? You were constantly like putting stuff to the side and then redigging out and all that stuff. It was kind of clunky.
Hmm.
This one's
I
just a lot more
played,
smooth.
yeah, my plan was to play all the factions of Imperial Settlers on the channel. But as I was playing it, I'm like, because I picked the Romans just to start off with, I'm like, I don't feel like the Romans here.
Hmm.
Like I just don't, I don't know. The solo mode wasn't great. These solo modes are awesome. Wrath of the Lighthouse, could have spent a little bit more time in the oven. I think. I think it's there. The bones are there, but there's just too much kind of like what? Like what the fuck am I supposed to be doing?
Right,
It's not crystal clear. So I'm still gonna play it. Like it's still really good solo scenarios, but there's a lot of stuff that's like, well, I don't know if this is right, but I'm gonna keep doing it.
right,
But still, because I'm doing the my favorite faction still, I think, still might be the hardest faction in the base game. And it's like the money guys. They use gold a lot to generate points and
right.
resources. They're super fun. But yeah, this is a good one. This is I think prediction for next year, unless you just you write it down, and be like, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I
Uh,
think with you getting 51st state and liking this one so much, I feel like Imperial Settlers will fall off.
it might, because 51st Date is wow, such
Yeah.
such such
And
a
you're about to get
graphic
this
version.
you're about to get that master set, right?
Yeah, the ultimate set. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's kind
kind
of
of
like
hit wrong.
you have a better Imperial Settlers, and then you have a theme that's basically Imperial Settlers but updated. Yeah. I don't I that's my one prediction for you for next year.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good choice. I don't think Empires of the North made my list. I'm quickly trying to find it, but I'm not seeing it. Hold on. Empires. No, it did not. But that doesn't mean
Well,
it's bad.
your list shit then.
My list fucking sucks. It was like I think it was quickly like 137 or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
uh it's creeping up. It might go up next year because I'm actually playing it.
right.
But my 27 is a little bit similar to Empires of the North in that it's a board game and
Really?
yeah, yeah, it is surprisingly, even though at times this game doesn't feel like one because you're literally just sitting there for hours listening to someone read you stuff. Uh, but when you're done listening to the story, the very expertly crafted story, mind you, I really think the writing for this is kind of under the radar. It doesn't get the recognition it deserves. If you are into JRPGs in any way, this is the game for you. This was 46 last year. So it rose 21 spots, and that's because I am still playing this campaign to this day. And that is Midara. Unintentional Malum Act 1. This is an insane game. Like with Succubus Publishing, like this is Act 1 and it's taken me well over a year and out of 5 chapters, we just got to the 4th chapter. And this is playing relatively regularly, not every week or anything, but like for a few hours, or not a few hours, for hours, like a couple times a month.
Right.
And they have what they call the NDG, so a narrative driven game. I don't know if that's something they made up or if that's just something whatever, but there's a lot in this game in terms of story. Like
Jesus.
that's pretty accurate actually. That's hilarious. Mine's a little bit more organized than that. Like that's clearly like a picture setup, I think. Unless maybe that's someone's solo game. You know,
Yeah,
that's probably it. I
it
bet you
looks
that's some,
solo.
but I have the player mats. So it's a little bit organized and obviously I have another person I'm playing it with. But yeah, I mean, this is like your anime dungeon crawl, but what makes this one super fun is the 4 characters you play, those 4 characters are already created. They're integrated in the story. If you're playing the campaign, you have to play these characters. And so it's like you're not role playing really as them. Like if you're playing Zeke Zhang, you're not trying to. He has a character. He already has like his personality and stuff. But still, there's so many choices within this game that it's like, okay, something comes up. What do you decide? And then you can kind of be like, well, here's how I feel what these characters would do. Or you could just throw that out the window and be like, this is what I want to do. But what's fantastic about this game is how you build the characters. Like they have at the very beginning of the game, the tutorial is kind of like, hey, give these characters these items. And that's generally the idea of what they thought they wanted these to be. It's like Nightingale, which is the top left. She wants to be more spellcasty. Um, Remy is more range. Zeke is more melee. And then Rook is like your tank. And that's kind of like how they quickly give you stuff. But you could just, I think it even says at the beginning, you could just be like, I don't want to do any of that and spend stuff to build them however you want. There's so many ways to build these characters, and it's fantastic. Like I mean, to say that you can build them however you want is almost an understatement because there's so much content just in this one box, and there's supposed to be two more acts after this on top of like side missions and side stuff that they're planning on just putting out.
Right.
Like this is what Kingdom Death Monster wants to be as a lifestyle game. This actually is because it just feels like this company put way more heart into it. And yeah, Foreteller came through with its narration because it's on there. It's not as good as Gloomhaven or anything, but at least someone read it all. And because yeah, if you think I reread a lot during Aeon's End, oh man, I'd probably have to just take a rest day if I had to read all this stuff myself.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. There is a lot to this game. This picture is a very, very good example of this. And I mean, it rose because it's fantastic. The Don't get me wrong, I have my problems with this game. I can't binge it. Like I can't. I mean, by the end of the play session, I'm more irritated because it does rely on dice. But there's a bunch of different color dice that give you either higher numbers or more symbols that you can use. So at least they're custom, but at the end of the day, it's still like, oh wow, the enemies are rolling well and we're not. This is becoming a slog.
Right.
But that's usually after about 6 hours of playing where I'm like, I'm done. I have to take a break. But yeah, it's great. It's great. Like very, very good game. So it's my number 27.
All right. I looked at this at one point when they were doing like a reprint or something like that,
Hmm.
but it was so damn expensive to get in on
Yeah, I
the.
mean, and then you drop what, 600 for Marvel Zombies?
No, no, I don't. I yeah, I
'Cause
mean, I
I
know
think
that's
this for all three acts was like 500. Which I mean, honestly, I think everyone should pay for everything for KDM because then you will never have a problem with paying for stuff ever again when you have that in the like I always have that in the back of my head when I pay a lot of money for games like this. It's like, oh man, I get all this content for only 500. Man, that's like a third of what I paid for KDM for less content. That's cool.
right.
So obviously I'm kidding, but yeah, yeah. And honestly, this looks like a lot of stuff, but since I play with one other person, we run two characters each, and that's not that bad, like at all. Especially when you're playing the same character multiple times, you get kind of what they're about and you know what you can do. Um, the only thing that is that this game just has a bunch of rules. Like you're in the rule book for quite some time
Right.
until we're at this point we're in a comfortable state, and luckily my friend, he ended up buying this game, so he's now playing it with like his girlfriend and stuff, so like now I have him who also knows the rules. But yeah, playing solo starting out would probably be very difficult.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 27 is a much less complex game. Uh, doesn't take up as much room either. It was number 28 last year, so it gained one spot. It was 29 the year before that. So it's like it's went up one
Ooh.
each the last couple of years. This one is I would say, successor. It's a better version of the games that it's built upon. And you didn't like the original games, the Roll Through the Ages and stuff like
Mm.
that. But my number 27 is Era Medieval Age.
I do like
Um,
this one.
yes, yes, this one is. I like that. I like Roll Through the Ages and all that stuff, where it's just a simple roll dice. You're gathering resources, feed your people, you build your stuff. It was one of the early roll and writes. Um,
Mm.
but then this came out, this overproduced, tons of plastic deal, and it's pretty much the same game, but they tweak it a little bit, make it a little more forgiving on certain things. And then they also add a spatial element to it as well, which is really cool because you have your own little board, and when you get buildings, you build buildings, and some of them have dice you get with, so that adds to your pool, and then you have to place that building in your on your city board somewhere. So you're trying to wall them all in. Um, However many dice you have is how many people you need to feed. So you've got your, all those different tracks you're keeping track of. I mean, if you've played Roll Through the Ages, you know how to play this. I mean, the only difference really is the actual putting buildings in places, and the buildings have different abilities. Um, Putting things adjacent to stuff. If one of the bad things happens, then you lose a bunch of stuff because of stuff adjacent to other buildings. But if you have the hospital, anything adjacent to that, that stops that. So they mitigate a lot. There's the expansion that adds rivers and roads, and does that as well. People have went through and painted these yellow boards. Yellow seemed like a odd choice, other than
It
it just
is.
it makes the other pieces stand out, I guess. But
Yeah, and maybe they were trying to go for like fields, maybe like farm fields or
yeah,
something. I
not
don't
really
know.
sure. But I know these boards don't have it. But when I bought mine, they had these stickers that went along all of the deals that had like numbers and said what they were and everything. So all those resource areas
Oh,
are
yeah.
laid and stuff. So there's little module expansions that you can buy for this that adds more buildings or dice and stuff like that. This is just one of those. It's a super simple game to teach. Um, and I mean those whatever you want to call those, the little shields that you have pretty much tells
Oh,
you everything, and the everything on the inside of that about what the buildings do, how much space they take up, just
yep.
different odds and ends, and that's really it. I mean, it's just really straightforward, and I have a blast playing this every time it hits the table.
Yeah, no, this is a very good one. I ended up getting its expansion and last Gen Con, the five
Mm-hmm.
um modules. Mainly because I was already at that booth and I got fucked over by the staff at Gen Con, so I didn't get the Great Western Trail expansion. I
Mm-hmm.
did. I had a buddy who worked there, so he ended up going in early and getting it for me. But yeah, so I was already there. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get these five like
Mm-hmm.
mini modules that you can't get online. Um, yeah. No, the best part about this is one, it's not as fuck you on the die rolling,
Right.
and the fact that you just pop a bunch of different types of buildings out, and it's like, okay, this is our game. So the fact that the buildings do something different is really cool, and the spatial awareness does the same type of thing for me as it does polyomino stuff. So
Right. Yep.
good choice here. All
Right.
right. So we just got through the string of four in a row that rose. Now let's go through the string of games that fell. Even though again, yeah, that they fell, they're still in the top 100 after tons and tons of games. This one fell kind of hard actually. It was number 9 last year. And so this is, I guess, this is still running true on my theory that even though if they're in the top 10, they're gonna uh they're still not going to fall drastically. So this fell 17 spots. And in 2020, it was number 18. So I kind of feel like in this range is where this game is going to end up staying. But again, this only fell because I have not played it because it's a beast to set up. But if I do set it up, it's a fantastic experience, and that is Eldritch Horror.
I still need to play this one.
Is it on our thing? I can only have so many games set up at a time.
No, I know. I just need
War
to
of the
play it at
Ring
some
or
point.
this one.
With it being
No, I know.
cooperative and stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, Eldritch Horror is a phenomenal experience with basically me coming from my love of Arkham Horror, which was my second game into this hobby after Talisman, so you can definitely tell my love for Fantasy Flight. I'm dying over here. And this is just your Lovecraft in a box. I really just think that Eldritch Horror is like, hey, every Lovecraft thing that he ever did story-wise is in this game, not him personally. It's like so otherwise it'd be a little problematic. But there's just all the expansions just include, hey, okay, well now we have the mountains. Hey, now we have the desert. Now we have the cities, the underwater stuff. All that is in here in some form or another. And it took Arkham Horror Second Edition, uh, which I still think has a lot of really good aspects to it. I had everything for it, but ended up getting rid of it because I'd rather just play Eldritch, and I got that same feeling. Uh, if you're not familiar with it, Eldritch Horror is a fully cooperative game where you play someone in the Lovecraft lore, going around trying to complete different objectives, having like each one of those cards at the bottom is a different encounter. So you go to a location, draw a card, depending on where you're at. If it's like, hey, you're in London, boom, you have this, make a skill check and get something out of it. This predates like narrative driven games almost. I feel like back then there was like D&D and tabletop RPGs, and then this kind of broke that open. Even though, yeah, you're not making narrative choices, like you're still engulfed in the story of what's happening. And it's just great. Like you build up your character by getting items and then going and fighting monsters and going to secret like strange artifacts and relics, getting pulled into the other worlds,
Mm-hmm.
where you're dealing with madness and horror, all to either prevent the awakening of an old one, or if they do awake, then you just get a shotgun and kill them because the shotgun is the ultimate god killer. It's it's Lovecraft in a box, honestly. So again, it was in my. I mean, you know what I was thinking? This is kind of a side thing because we usually do the past 2 years of stats.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we're still doing this, because this is our sixth one, sixth top 100 that we've done. Uh, it's like for if we do it all the way till we like 10, like if we do this 10 times, we should do like the running history
Yeah.
past 10 years how these games have landed.
Yeah.
But this has been around forever. Like I guess at one point it was my number three.
Yeah,
So
Rio always used to be pretty high for you.
yeah, which even then, if you think about it, after the past 6 years of doing this, it fell to 26.
Right.
That's insane. So yeah, that is my number 26, Eldritch Horror.
Awesome. I'll get it played at some point. I've owned this game twice and never played it. And I've sold it. So
Yeah, I mean, I can see why. I mean, this is definitely way super easy, way easier than Madara to play solo. But I know
I
your
know
wife doesn't like co-ops, so.
this would be me playing solo only.
Mhm.
And the reason I want to get back to it now is because I used to not be a big Cthulhu person, and I've started getting into that more with some of the games that have been coming out recently. So it makes me want to go into it a little more, playing the Arkham
Gotcha.
LCG and stuff like that. You know,
Oh yeah.
so
Oh yeah. I mean, this is just kind of like all the other. I just like smacked super loud. That was obnoxious.
you're good.
Uh, but this is like the conglomerate of all Fantasy Flight Lovecraft games. It's like it has a little bit of LCG, it has a little bit of Arkham Horror, it has a little bit of Mansions of Madness, it has a little bit of, I guess not really Unfathomable because I wasn't around then, but yet still being its own thing.
Hmm.
It's I don't know. It's a fantastic cooperative game where you ride or die together. We ride or we die together.
God.
So that's my 26 Eldritch Horror.
All right. My number 26. So like you had just said before you said this is my string of four that fell, and I have one new one. So like
Okay.
all these are gonna be falling except for that new one that pops in. This one fell 9 spots this year. It was 11 last year, or not 11. It was sorry. No, actually it
Nine
was
spots would be
no, no, never mind.
17.
No, it actually fell 16 spots.
Okay.
It was 9 last year. So it was 9
Oh, I
last
see.
year,
Okay.
11, and then 6. Sorry, I was looking at
Hey,
the wrong column.
mine was also 9 last year.
Yeah, and this
Wait,
one
that'd be
is
17 spots.
9 to 25.
Idiot.
Oh, no, wait.
26.
Sorry. I'm looking at the wrong damn game. Sorry. I'm gonna start calling this. I'm Sething this. All right. I'm Sething this. Never mind. I was looking at the wrong one. I was looking at my 25. So my
That's fair.
26 is my last one that rose. So forget
Oh,
everything
yay.
that I said before that. This was the last one of the list that rose. And it was
It's hard to
80.
follow a list, guys.
It was 80 last year. So
Oh, geez. God.
it's jumped 54 spaces. Um, and it was in the 80s prior to that. So
Wow.
it's really went up, and I think it's just because it's a deck builder that I've really started enjoying, and I actually played it with some other people around here, not just solo. So it's been you get to play that competitive aspect of it a little bit. You've never played this.
Okay. I was like,
It's got the art that you don't like, and that is a Touch of Evil Dark Gothic.
okay, so hold on, real quick. Art is a very
Uh,
loose term here. Wait, does
yeah,
this actually have drawings or is it the
this
still
is the
images?
photography. You'll
Okay,
see
that's not
eventually.
art. I guess
Well,
it
it
is.
is.
Shut up.
Yeah, yeah. So this is there's such a range here because I like Touch of Evil, the board game. Um, the guy that made this also did all the Shadows of Brimstone stuff and made all of it. So he has a big
Yeah,
range
see, that's art. I don't.
of
It's
well,
so
this
weird because I separate photography from art, although they'd all be categorized in
right.
under art. Just like if
That's
I
gonna
just
get
never
weird.
mind. Like
But
pornography is art. It's like
I guess
if
everything
we're
is
going if
art
we're
in
going in
somebody's
that
eyes.
blanket term.
Yeah. So it is in somebody's eyes. I mean,
Could you imagine? It's like
it's
you know how you have like people who go to like art museums and they're just like studying it, like someone just at a porn studio just God, yeah,
yeah,
it's exquisite.
yes.
Anyway, I'm gonna
I like the angle. No,
go.
but
The way the lighting just glistens off of the sweat.
yeah. So anyway, this one is Flying Frog's only deck building game, and it takes the Touch of Evil theme and throws it into a deck building game that it's a competitive deck builder, or it can be cooperative. I play it solo, but it actually is pretty fun competitively if you like these kind of deck builders. In this game, there's going to be a stack of monsters you're going to be trying to defeat as you play through it. And you pick a character. They're going to have special ability. You're going to have a unique starting deck depending on what character you pick. But there's all these different, like most deck building games, especially competitive deck building games, there's like two currencies. Let's say there's like the purchasing a currency and then the attacking currency. Think like Ascension or anything like that. This one has three. So certain things may take some certain number of green and red to defeat or buy. So there's three currencies you have to deal with at this point. So your deck building on that, using that deal. Sometimes you're going to have these little dice rolls you have to do for certain things. Um, yes, the photography is very polarizing. I like
Oh,
this
and
stuff just because it makes it lighthearted and stuff.
I think it's
Um,
great. Like
right,
it's just not great.
right,
Like
right,
I like it. I love the campiness of it. I understand that it's very bad.
right, right. So you make a stack of over here. You make a stack of these bad guys. There's certain different, and they hand draw the bad guys. That's what's funny. They use photography on all this stuff, and then the monsters are like a hand drawn
That
sketch
is
of them and
very
stuff.
well because they could you imagine
Yeah, I
some
know
guy?
somebody in a furry suit. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but yeah, this one does really good, cool things with the different colors of deals. So like in a lot of games, think like Marvel Legendary or stuff like that. There's that card that you buy that's not in the deck that gives you just like +2 purchase instead of the +1 and all
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff.
like that. Yeah.
So that's what they have up here. They have all these different colors, so you can actually buy these instead of doing stuff in the deck just to get your deck more in that color. So it just keeps adding more stuff like that. The base game is good, but if you go down the rabbit hole of getting this game, there's only one expansion for it, and it's the Colonial Horror expansion, and that's makes it combined why it's at this high, just because of the content, the monsters it adds. It's this is just a really fun deck builder to give a shot to. They had that theme thrown on with this kind of deck builder just works. You're not doing superheroes,
Hmm.
you're not dealing with all that stuff. You're dealing with vampires or headless horsemen or crap
Yeah.
like that. And it's just a fun
It's a
one.
niche genre that yeah, no, I agree. Flying Frog is kind of in their own lane. Honestly, if they Shadows of Brimstone, one, I think is the only reason that this company is relevant, because it's
Yeah.
clearly their best game. But it's also so different from everything else that if you were to play Shadows of Brimstone and you're like, oh man, I really like this. Oh, then you might like these. It's like, what the fuck is that? Uh, but still, they have stuck to their guns.
Yep. Yep. And
Maybe
this
one day when
one's
they close shop or they're done, they'll do a Kickstarter for everything Shadows of Brimstone, and I'll be able to jump in and finally play it and just experience the glory that you keep preventing me from enjoying. Having
it
me
would
set up
take
all
you
these.
it would take you 3 damn years to put together all the miniatures, man. There's so many miniatures.
No, that's
I,
why I have a wife. It'll take her 3 years to do it.
it is nuts, man. And that last
You don't
Kickstarter,
understand nuts. I don't want to hear it. You need to KDM minis or something else.
but there wasn't like thousands of miniatures to put together either.
That is true. There
I mean,
were
it's
not.
it's not quality, it's quantity. That's what's taken the.
That's
I mean, they're
true.
they're good quality. They're not KDM
Yeah,
quality,
but
but
it's like gluing two pieces together. You just go boop.
well, no, there's 5 pieces per little tiny miniature.
Oh,
On
then
so I mean,
they got more expensive, or they got more whatever the word is.
yeah, you put that
Uh,
head on, the hat, the arms, the weapons, and the
gotcha.
legs. It
I
is
know the
more to it.
in the one of the base games, I think it was the Swamps of Death. I think there were
Yeah,
just some minis that were just two
they
halves.
were. They updated from that and got more.
I see.
So anyway, off the rails. This is a good one. You can
Yeah,
still find this, but if you get it, get the Colonial Horror along with it. That's
cool.
it's a good one.
Awesome. All right. My number 25 is also a deck builder, and this one was actually kind of surprising. One, in how it fell, but also because you and I played it quite a bit this past year, and yet it still fell. So this was my number 8 last year, also falling 17 spots, and my number 11 in 2020. So uh, this one and Elder Tor were both 8 and 9, and they fell to 25 and 26, which is just kind of weird that they stayed uh, right by each other. But yeah, my number 25 is
Ah, yes.
Aeon's End. and everything for it. So go ahead and give me the flack. Apparently, Aeon's End Legacy and Aeon's End,
Oh no, that's
whatever
all
the
combined. That's all. It's
yeah.
all the same game.
So another campaign that I was able to finish. Me and you finished out their newest legacy. What was it called? I'm trying to remember
Legacy
what
of
the.
Gravehold.
I thought that was the first one.
No, that was just Aeon's End
That was
Legacy.
just legacy. Oh,
The Legacy
okay.
of Gravehold is another one.
I see. Uh, yeah. So Aeon's End is a unique deck builder. The only real thing that's unique about it is the fact that whenever you have to reshuffle, you don't. You actually just flip your deck over, which is really cool because whenever you are buying cards and playing cards, they get put in a you actually it matters where how you discard them. So like when you cast all your spells, if you have a bunch to cast, you can cast them in a certain way and they hit your discard pile in a certain way. When you're buying a bunch of cards, you decide in what order, and then whenever you discard your hand, you decide in what order so that when you flip it, you can actually kind of, if you're paying attention, know what's coming up. You can prep for a really cool hand. And every time I play this, there's always like my deck. I can never like I usually go for really big turns and then
Right.
nothing instead of trying to even it out where it's like you're doing something, useful every turn, but that's just a play style. And this is definitely old. This is true Aeon's End. Now it's been completely updated.
Right.
All the characters don't look like that. They've been redone with art and just overall design. The cards, new art, better design.
Mhm.
Uh, but even then, when I first played Aeon's End that looked like this, because I hated deck builders at the time, because I was like, there's no theme in any of them. It makes no sense why you're doing whatever except for the just for the purposes of building a deck. And then an ex-friend of all of us showed this to me, and I was like, oh my God, this game is good. And I mean, at its core, it's a boss battler. Like, I don't care what anyone says. You pick an enemy and you fight
Yep.
it. Like, just because you're using cards doesn't remove that in any way. All the bosses you are up against play completely different. They have their own unique cards that are getting thrown in with standard stuff that you just kind of randomly shuffle in three different tiers. So as you're fighting, uh, like the cards go from level one to level two to level three, and if you survive, that's one way you can win, or more than likely, uh, you knock his health all the way down, and it's just a fantastic experience. The Legacy, which you and I have also done, that was off camera, was fine. Like it
Yeah.
on second playthrough, it was still just kind of whatever. Just really is a good excuse to get way more content. And then Legacy of Gravehold was definitely a lot better. I still think the overall story is weak, but they it's still more Nemesis. And at the end of the day, for Aeon's End, I just want more bosses to fight, more characters to play. And yeah, it's it's a lot. This might be, I think Arkham Horror LCG might still be the game I have the most cards.
Right.
Um, no, it would have to be. I have three wooden crates of stuff.
Yeah. This one, the funnest part of the original Legacy was just the character creation because it was funny and
Yeah,
you get to name everything. I mean, that was
right.
silly, I bet. But yeah, we have the new Kickstarter. It's going to be coming here pretty quick. That's
Past and
going to
future.
be it's going to be delivered. They said it was at the shipping hubs. So
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but this company, their turnaround time is insane.
yeah.
So yeah, that I mean every expansion they found ways to make it um to make them irrelevant. It wasn't just more of the same. So I'm always excited for more stuff. And then the standalone boxes that came out after Legacy were just I think that was the better way to do the story, do mini kind of snippets, which we've done one now. Uh I think there's one more that we have to do, one or two
Uh,
more,
two.
two more.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like five mini things that give you the overall story that leads into Legacy of Gravehold. But yeah, we'll see what they do after past and future. Storage solution, storage
Because
solution, and
you'll
that's
be
it.
getting the Knights. Uh,
Astronites.
yeah, so that'll be interesting to see if that's any good or not.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it kind of looks just like this, but space themed. So we'll see if
Yeah,
it feels any different. The other unique thing about this, I don't know if you'll talk about it later, but if not, the initiative deck. It's not like everyone goes, then the enemy goes. It's a deck of two Nemesis, and then depending on player count, the player cards. So that's always shuffled, and then it's like you don't know who's going next or when, and that is such a small thing, but rackets up the tension. That it's like so many games, and we say it every time, but so many games of this game come down to okay, if we go, then we win. If it goes, we lose.
right.
And yeah, at some point, Brad and I will do a ranking or a tier list over the nameless because like I'd probably say 3/4 of them are really really good, and but they do have some shitty ones.
We'll have to do
So
a tier list. There's too many damn, too many damn things.
there, yeah, I think a tier list would be fine either way. Either way works for me. But yeah, that's my 25 Aeon's End.
All right, so now my 25, the one I was confused about earlier, was number 9 last year. So it did drop 16 spots. It's
Okay.
been right around that number 10 the last several years. This is, let me look here really fast, make sure I'm not going to lie. Yeah, this is my favorite game by this designer so far. I haven't played all of them yet, so we'll see how that changes. It was also the first game by this designer that I played, and that is Raiders of
Hmm.
North Sea. Um, go ahead and get this out of the way. Love the art.
Yep.
I'm a Miko guy. But Shem Phillips, he is ran with these trilogies, of coming out with stuff and then expansions for the games in the trilogies. I wasn't too big of a fan of the other two of this trilogy,
Hmm.
but Raiders is still to this day probably my favorite of all of them. After playing, um, the other two in the West Kingdom,
Architects,
Architects.
Paladins.
Yeah, I played those two. Haven't played the Viscounts yet,
Okay.
but this one's just really caught me because it's an easy game. It's got that mechanic where you're gonna you place a worker, pick up a worker. So it brings in a lot more strategy to it because you've got to pay attention what you're leaving open when you pick up a worker for other people to use. You're gaining resources and hiring more sailors to join your team. All the reason or all the while you're trying to get enough resources to go across the water there to raid. So you raid different spots. It doesn't really show on here necessarily, but there's going to be when you set up the game, you're going to be dropping a bunch of resources out there on those areas. So like when you go there and pay the cost to go there and everything, you actually get all the stuff on there, which could be Valkyries even. So if you get those, you have to kill crew members for those, but then you go up on a Valkyrie track, which is also a scoring track. So there's battle track, Viscount track, and then just victory point track for uh, fame, I guess, or whatever. The expansions of this just add more to it. It's like the Hall of Heroes and the Fields of Fame. Uh, those add more mechanics and more
I've
more
heard those
sailors and
expansions
stuff.
are almost a must from
I
base
would. I
game.
mean,
Like
it depends
like
on what kind of
comparing
game
base
you're.
game to base game.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people like Paladins and Architects over like base game over
Mhm.
this, but then if you add the expansions to Raiders, then it's like it like elevates it quite a bit.
It definitely does, but I mean, I'll still sit and play the base game of this just because it's a simple teach. Like say if you're
Gotcha.
playing with people that aren't, I would say use the expansions if you're playing with people that know the game. Because it's definitely the better way to
Hmm.
play it. But
Gotcha.
I have the big play mat for this that has all the boards for Fields of Fame and all that, and Hall of Heroes added
Cool.
on it and everything. This is just a really cool, and it's beautiful on the table, just like most of his games. Um,
Hmm.
I'll eventually get Viscounts played, and then there's also the Wayfarers, all those coming out now that I want to try. But yeah, I mean, Shem Phillips is just one of those guys that when he puts something out, buy it or at least play it
Yep.
and see what you
Pretty
think.
much. Pretty much. It's just, yeah, everyone loves his games, including me, except for this one. I didn't think this one was bad by any means. I just prefer the West Kingdom games, and only
Yeah,
two of them. I don't really like Architects.
right.
Uh, but Wayfarers. Very excited for that trilogy because Wayfarers is off to or the South Tigris
Yeah, because
trilogy is
Scholars is
off to.
coming out next, right?
Yep, that'll
Scholars.
go on Kickstarter. I think March.
Yeah,
And Wayfarers, if that's anything you go off of, the South Tigris trilogy might be the best. I think, at least for me.
right.
All right. My 24 is another cooperative game, and this one I feel is due to purely circumstance of doing the Pub Meeple thing, because Pub Meeple is not 100% correct. There's no way it can be, especially after you look at it and you're like, because this I feel like shouldn't be 24. It definitely should be higher, but I don't modify it as I just I'm like, okay, here it is. I
Right.
believe in the algorithm or I believe in the website. So I just take the top 100 and put it in here. But if I were the doctorate sum, this would still be higher. Maybe not in the top 10 like it was, but it would be higher than 24. Anyway, last year was number five. And so it fell 19 spots. And in 2020, it was number four. So it fell out of my top 10 at this point. And that is
Gotcha.
Spirit Island. Uh, because I have like no complaints about this game. Not really. So this one is such a good cooperative game. Like if I'm looking for a strategic cooperative game, then this is my favorite one. I used to say it was my favorite co-op game, but that's clearly not the case with how many cooperative games I have
Right.
above this. But if I just want a strategic, like still thematic pure co-op where everyone matters and everyone actually gets to, you know, have their input, this is the game. It's I mean, it's not really a looker by any means, but I actually don't mind that. I like in a game that's this strategic, you want to be able to have clarity of your board. And at least like the art for the spirits, I think is really unique and just extremely well done. But this is a game where everyone is playing a spirit, trying to get rid of settlers on their island. And yeah, these settlers come on and just kind of populate and destroy and corrupt the land and horrific things to make them leave. Either they use fear, which is I think it's a really cool like resource really because it makes sense if people are terrified of being on the island. I mean, I'd jettison too if I'm like, all right, family, I'm going away. And then you look around, you're just mindlessly walking into the water and then they just drown. And you're like, what the fuck was that? Yeah, it'll generate some fear. Uh, but yeah, you're trying to remove people, towns, and villages or cities to generate that fear. Then that kind of moves over, and that means you have to remove less. You can theoretically win the game if you completely wipe all their enemy pieces off, but I've never had that happen. Maybe it's possible with a certain type of spirit uh, setting, but it's very difficult. And each spirit plays completely different. And the best thing about this game is the fact that the abilities you use are either slow or fast. And
Right.
so if fast, all that means is you go before the invaders go. You can clearly see what the invaders do. So nothing's really random except where they're going to explore. So you can see where they're going to build. You can see where they're going to corrupt. And you see it's like build, develop, and explore, I think are the three things that they do. And you can see that they're doing all that so you can plan ahead. But yeah, it's like fast abilities, do this, then the enemy goes, and then slow abilities. And this is just one of those cooperative games where everyone needs to be in sync to be like, here's what I can do. Like, What can you do? Okay, that's really cool. Like, okay, anyone have a fast power that can do this? No, you have a slow power that does that? Okay, well, I have an ability that I can use instead that allows you to go first. There's just a lot of cohesion between players that makes this game just fantastic. Oh, it's Ravage. Ravage, build, and explore. I was looking for the board. Um, Tons of expansions for this, so many spirits, and honestly, it's not on here, and I actually haven't personally played it, but from everything I've seen, if you want to play this game, a really, really good starting off point is the Horizons of Spirit Island. That is kind of like a tutorial, really, to this. It's still a full game, but it comes with like a quick start guide and some
It's like
spirit.
Jaws of the Lion for Gloomhaven.
Exactly. Um, because I'm not gonna lie, this is a heavy co-op. It's a lot of rules, and that's probably why it did slip. Um, Besides the fact that maybe just I voted these other games ahead of it, but this is kind of a game where every time I play it, even though I don't think it's as complex as a lot of people say, it is enough that you're in the rule book more often than I want to be. Um, so yeah, the Horizons of Spirit Island, which you can get at Target, which I probably will get just to get the new spirits. Uh, you can you can start off with that and then go from there. But yeah, there's a lot of extra stuff I haven't really talked about, but this is so good. It's so good, and you got rid of it because you hate it.
It's just when I want a solo game, I mean this one just wasn't the type I liked playing solo, you know.
And don't play
I
it
mean,
solo.
well,
Get a different wife that
I need
likes co-ops.
friends. I need friends.
Get friends. That's easier than my suggestion of a new wife after what, 20 years?
Yeah. Well, and the guys I do play with already have this game anyway. So if I ever did get you
That's
have it,
fair.
they all have it over there. So yeah,
That's fair. Never mind. Play with them. I
yeah.
actually saw them playing the Horizons, right?
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe.
Oh, maybe they're my friends more than they are you. They talk to me a
Maybe.
lot. That's not true at all. Anyway, what's your 24?
My number 24 is my new one to the list. Uh,
Ooh, hot.
and it is one that we have both played and enjoyed. And yeah, you went and bought it too. This game is mechanically a very, very fun Euro by a designer that we both have talked about liking. We've put some of his games on our list already. The cover is a little confusing, but the game itself is really, uh, really well done, and that is Boone Lake.
I was
Um,
like, I'm like, what is he talking about?
yeah,
Euro.
because we put Fister games all over this list with Great Western
hmm
Trail and with
Yeah, Boone Lake was,
Maracaibo, stuff like that.
dang, you like it this much, huh?
Really like this one.
Wow.
It's I love that action mechanic, like
hmm
because it's normally this is just it looks like when you look at this game on the table, it looks just like your normal kind of Euro style game, but having that action mechanic selection where you have to be careful what you're choosing because whatever you choose, you're going to get that action. But then there's the right side of that tile that you pull is something that the opponents can do. So you have to kind of keep an eye on that. Plus, there's that whole track that they sit in. So you kind of want them to slide up. You don't want to use them constantly, or else you're having to pay to use them.
Yeah.
Also, but this does just like what like Maracaibo does. There's this whole thing where your boats are tracking along the river, and you're making like kind of more or less two trips around it. Because you go up and then you do a loop and then go back up, and that's what signifies the end of the game. But you're doing tile laying, you're putting cows out there, houses, farms, all this stuff. There's just a lot of stuff going on your player board down here. There's your resource generation depends on your where your canoes are in that river, so you can kind of move them around. If you put both canoes in one spot, you're gonna get double of that stuff, but you kind of want to spread them out. You have to pay a money penalty to go back upstream. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on with this game, that the set collection mechanic with the cards. This one does have a learning curve to it. I mean, there's a lot of the action tiles that you take. Once you figure out the iconography, then it's easier.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, just like a typical Pfister game. I mean, there's a learning
Yeah, I was
curve
gonna
with symbols.
say all of his games kind of have a learning curve, like
Mhm.
Great Western Trail for sure does, because that penalizes you if you don't get it. Um, yeah, this one's solid. Yeah, it was in my top 100 as well, just way earlier. Um, yeah, we'll
Well,
have to get it on the channel.
and the solo of this is pretty solid too. But having those little, I can't remember what they were called, the things on the right side of your player board, the switches or whatever.
I thought they were
Like,
technologies, but
yeah, but they had a name.
I,
I can't remember what they call them. But like, you get an ability in those doors, like you slide them down, and then you can do something to raise them to use that ability again.
hmm
The other thing, really quick, is at the bottom of the board, the left side there, like there's scoring deals. Like when certain things happen, you need to put one of your tiles down, and you have to put one down on one of them. So
Yep.
so you can hose you need to gamble early on certain things and then really go that way. This this is one of those games, just like a lot of Euros. I mean, this isn't saying anything special, but it definitely rewards more plays.
Yeah.
Like if you play this with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, you're gonna absolutely murder them just because of knowing all that stuff. But yeah, looks good on the table. This is this is my favorite Pfister game, I believe.
There's no
Yeah,
way. Unless you forgot one, there's no way. I don't think you've talked about it yet.
well, we'll see.
You
I need to look here
fuck.
real
If
quick.
you don't have this in your above Boone Lake, unless you've already talked about it, but I don't think you have. Well, we'll see about it whenever I talk about it. It'll come up. Uh, but in the meantime, we will talk about my new one to this segment. And this actually is a game that you don't like, because you just have shit taste. Boone Lake being a prime example. 24, grow up. No, my number 23 is, like I said, new to the list. I have a fully painted copy that looks amazing. My wife did a fantastic job with this one. It just hits the theme. And this is one of the games I was anticipating for quite some time. And they just announced two new expansions, which I'm very excited for. And that is Townsfolk
Yes.
Tussle. Uh, yeah, they kind of revamped the way they were going about their expansions, which I think is still really cool. But that'll be going on Kickstarter, I think, soon. But yeah, Townsfolk Tussle is a boss battler akin to Cuphead. If you're not familiar with that, that was a video game that came out that basically reinvigorated this art style and this kind of 1920s rubber leg uh, artwork. And yeah, this is where you play a character from Eureka Springs, which is the town, and you pick a boss. Technically, you pick four from a bag, and then they're shuffled, and then a full game of this is you go through a basically a gauntlet, a boss gauntlet of ever increasing bosses. So each boss has like four ways they can play, like their standard, and then they add like a new thing they do, then another new thing they do, and then if they're the last one, then you flip them over and they have like their unique final boss rules.
Right.
But this one just, I mean, it completely works for me. It's insanely difficult, but I mean, you feel powerful, but the enemy feels powerful. And what's really cool about this is that the nothing really changes. So two examples I have of this is in Kingdom Death Monster, for example. That's obviously what a lot of people's bar is for a boss battler. Is as the fight goes on, the the enemy gets weaker because you've hit it a bunch and you've cut off body parts and stuff, so it gets weaker. In Aeon Trespass, they invert that where the you and the enemy get stronger uh, until one of you loses. Townsfolk Tussle doesn't really do that. Everyone stays kind of constant. Like the boss doesn't have like a phase two or anything. It still does stuff as you deal damage to it. Basically, it gets like an interrupt turn if you cross a certain threshold, but it doesn't like, which is kind of like a Oathsworn, I guess, where if you break a body part in Oathsworn, the
Right.
enemy goes. It does that, which I think, I mean, works equally well if each of the bosses are completely unique. And I just love the way that this works. And at one point, I was thinking, oh man, I wish this was more challenging. But then someone was like, yeah, you can only attack once, even though you have a certain moxie. Even if you could pay for more attack, you can only do it once. So I'm like, oh, that might be why. But yeah, this has two phases, a market phase, really an event phase. And this also kind of has like personal goals you're trying to go with because you're trying to become the new sheriff. It's not semi-cooperative because it doesn't really matter who becomes the sheriff. It's just that player gets like a unique reward.
Right.
And but I mean it's still fully cooperative. So it's like, hey, okay, cool, you're the new sheriff. Now you can use that new item to help us. It's I just I love this game. Obviously, new to the list, 23. This is kind of one, if their turnaround time is high, then this will probably stick around this slot because I'll have those expansions. Uh Only complaint I have about this game is I wish that the boss setup was more varied. Like in the terms of like when you're setting up a boss, the terrain tiles are always going to be in the same spot. It'd be cooler if it was like varied in some way. That's
Right.
really it. So maybe in the expansions they'll come up with some way to either make a variant or ways to change that. But who knows? I guess I'll find out when they go on Kickstarter again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my 23, Townsfolk Tussle.
All right. So my number 23 is a game that's been on my list for quite a while. It was 13 last year. Um, and this is a this one replaced the regular stuff that I had just because a Kickstarter had been delivered recently with the complete collection. Um, and that is Everdell
Ooh.
collection. Uh,
Ah, this is such a sexy game.
it is, and
I'm a furry. I'm into animals.
it's a
I should let you
freaking
know.
huge.
Brad, listen to me. This is who I am.
Yeah, yeah, that's you on the cover, right?
That's my girlfriend on the cover.
But
Anyway, keep
this box is massive, and I still
yeah,
haven't
it is.
stickered all the meeples. I don't even know if I'm going to, but
You know what? Take it from me who did sticker all the meeples. Don't bother.
yeah, yeah.
If the meeples were the same shape for every animal, I'd say,
Hmm.
yeah, obviously sticker them. Since they're not, I think you should be able to tell what's a turtle and what's a bat.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so this one is your uh this version. The reason I have it on here, it has all the collector's editions of all the expansions, the Everdell, the Pearlbrook, Belfair, New Leaf, Mistwood, and then it has the big fancy wooden tree and just
Hmm.
all that stuff. And then I think, yeah, this picture shows the realistic resource pack too that has all that cool stuff. So it's just really cool. And in this game, you're tableau building.
Yep.
Ultimately, you're doing worker placement with whatever character you're using. What's
This is
that?
it's the storybook.
Oh, okay.
It's the Playboy book that I got.
Yeah,
Fan made, all by me.
pages stuck together.
Yeah, this is one big page.
But yeah, so you're tableau building over a certain number of rounds. You're gathering resources and stuff. There's the different seasons, which this is cool because like you start off with a small number of workers. You choose when you want to jump seasons. So somebody could still be in a whole nother season while everybody else is running in the other one. It just means you're being more efficient. I think if you're slower at going through the seasons.
Yeah.
But you build up this tableau. Certain cards work off of each other, like the mom and dad cards or whatever. I can't remember. I think that's what they were called. But there's just a lot of stuff with this game. It's beautiful art. I mean, we've talked about the art on this over the years with the cover art and just all that different stuff. Um, and this is kind of one of those evergreen games, that always goes. You don't by no means have to have the complete collection. I mean, but
No,
if
no,
you're a
not at
fan of this
all.
game, go for it because it's just
Yeah.
badass getting all that stuff in there.
I think
And
once I play Mistwood, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, and we talked about other game companies when they make these big box expansions not having all the room for everything. Still, these guys had the forethought to even make room for all the realistic resource things to even fit in there instead of just being
Yeah.
like something you have to tack onto the side or something. So
Yep.
they put
Yeah, I
that
was
thought
gonna
ahead.
say that. Yeah. Was I was like Starling Games, like clearly they're like when you go to Gen Con, like they have a big booth in this massive the Ever Tree and all that, and they're like, Everdell, look, Everdell. It's like, do you have any other games? Shut the fuck up. We have Everdell. Like you have some like bound and gagged other designers that aren't oh, what's his name? Who's the designer for this?
Oh gosh, sure.
Everdell. It is something Bosley. No, he's the artist. James Wilson. Yeah, James Wilson is their king, and then all their other games that they made are just abused uh, characters. But what I was gonna say about Everdell was I think once I play Mistwood, that I'll probably do kind of like a ranking over the expansions. And a spoiler, there's not a bad one. Like I don't think there's a single bad expansion. I have my favorites,
Yeah,
but
I still need to play. There's three of the expansions I haven't played yet.
let me guess. I would imagine. Have you played Spirecrest? It's the mountain one.
I have played Pearlbrook
Okay.
and Belfair. I haven't
Okay.
played the
Yep.
other three.
So the three best ones. Well, actually, Mistwood I haven't played, but um, uh, Spirecrest and fuck, New Leaf. I was like, what's the other one? Yeah, those are great. All the expansions are great. Honestly, this game
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Uh, so yeah, that's a really good one. My number 22. This one, so I'm back to games that rose, and this actually rose because we played it together. This was on our list, and one of the very few we have played on this list. It rose from 38. It was so 16 spots, and in 2020 it was number 19. So sticking around this spot, wonderful, wonderful cooperative game, extremely immersive and thematic by a kind of dog shit company now, and that is
Oh yeah.
Reichbusters. Project Vril and the shady company being Mythic Games. Um, but Mythic Games is kind of like the same. Uh, like they remind me a little bit of like Ludus Magnus Studios. These what you expect from Kickstarters, where it's like they're every game they make isn't going to be a banger, but what they do make that is good is really good. And this is definitely one of them. Like whenever Wolfenstein was announced, I was like, oh, I don't need that. I have this
Right.
because it's kind of the same theme. Nazis are bad. Want to make that very clear, just because apparently in 2023, that's a statement you have to clarify people on.
Yes.
Um, what is happening? But yeah, so the Nazis have some magic material that kind of enhances their weapons, and they're doing weird, crazy experiments. And you play this group of teams that or group of people that are going in and completing missions. The best way I think to play this game is actually with its I think it's called raid mode, but where the map is just insanely huge. And you have and it's completely modular in that, what list of enemies you're going to have, what setup you're going to have, and then what goal you're going to have. And there's a bunch of different options for each of those. And this has like every character has their own unique deck. It does that top bottom action similar to Gloomhaven that like one is like your main action, the other one could be a response, using it for extra dice or extra skill checks. But this one just does so much for the theme and getting into it. Like where you have a character that's kind of all about guerrilla tactics and she's really good at melee, and you can just kind of like it has a noise system, kind of like Wolfenstein. If you're walking around, or the guards are moving around, they can walk in, and if they kind of see you, they become alerted, or they become cautious, and then they can become alerted. Uh, you can sneak into rooms and then like toss a smoke grenade in there, and then run in there and just like knife all of them, and just keep running with that. You can go in guns blazing and be like, oh, to hell with the alarm. We're gonna raise it anyway. Let's run in and start killing people. It's there's just so much that this game has right. And even though again, Mythic Games is one of those that will they'll just kind of release a game and then like months later release an errata pack, which I got. At least I got the errata pack, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. But I love the fact that this does feel like those kinds of shooter video games
Right.
where like cause you'll have patrols that it's like, okay, now this guard, if they're in here, they just walk through the door. And so you could be walking and be like, oh, and then they're like, hey, and then you have to like quickly like stab them and then be like, okay, shh. Or just be like, you know what, fuck it, that room's full of guards, grenade. Like I really like the way that all the stuff that they added. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's not one of those games where it feels like it's fiddly. I
Right.
don't know. It just kind of everything that they added, I feel needed to be added. There's not really anything I would remove from this. So
Yeah, I had a
fantastic
lot of
co-op.
fun playing this one. It was a
Hmm.
good one. I don't think I need to own it, but I mean, it was still definitely fun to play, and I'd play it again. You know.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's kind of where a lot of people would be, that if you backed it and you're like, I'm happy to own everything for this. Um, but then yeah, it's not this wouldn't be a game I think people would run out to try and get. Didn't really get a whole lot of like acclaim either.
No.
So it came out in 2020. Uh that could just be, I mean, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, this one didn't really take the world by storm. Uh but if you play it, I think if you're into those kind of video games, then you're gonna get that experience here. And really, if you really like the new Wolfenstein, Bethesda's Wolfenstein,
Right.
then you're gonna get that feeling here. What I think they should do, not Mythic Games really, but I think this kind of gameplay could work really well with Doom as well,
Yeah, I
like
could see that.
the new Doom games. But that's it. That is my number 22, Reichbusters.
All right. So my number 22 has been on my list, I think, since we started doing this. It came out in 2012. And so it went down five. So it was 17 last year. It was 12 the year before that. Um, and it's kind of bounced around. This used to be my number one game of all time for, I think, a couple of years in a row. This was the preeminent, like, this was my go-to competitive game to play. Uh,
Oh,
Constant, and it's always going to be on this list. Even though I got rid of my entire collection, I rebought back some of the stuff since it's not being made anymore, at least officially. But and that is Android Netrunner.
what was it last year?
It
12?
was 17
Oh,
last year.
17.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then 12 the year before that, and then it just kind of.
So it's been slowly just kind of going back a
Yeah,
little bit.
I mean it's one of those things. Like I've bought the core set and a couple things just to have it to play if I ever want to just do
Hmm.
it. Like, um,
Oh, I did not
but
know Richard Garfield made this.
yep, he's
Okay.
the dude. But they're still putting stuff out for this game. Like there's this group of people that put out official fan made stuff. Like they still have tournaments. They still do all this. They actually have it actually printed, like legit printed to match all the other
Wow.
stuff.
Damn.
Um, so they
I'm
really get
surprised you
into
haven't
it.
jumped on that. Like if
I
it's
got
officially
I
printed and stuff.
I probably would have if they did that after I sold everything. And I
Oh.
mean, I had tons and tons and tons of crap for it. I had all the custom tokens.
Hmm.
This was my life game. Like back then, I would travel all over states away to play and everything. And and I still just looking at this picture, it's like still gives me the itch, just because of how
Just hey, just
well,
got
right,
any
right. I
net
mean, it's
runner.
just because it had a learning curve of learning the lingo because
Hmm.
like your your cards and your draw deck and your discard pile and everything had a name and everything when you would try to steal agendas from the corporation, you'd have to travel down their lanes of where there are their discard pile, their deck, their hand, or they're putting out servers. So once you kind of got that into your head about that, what you were actually doing, um, you would try to because the object of the game is you're as a runner, you're trying to steal 7 agenda points worth of stuff. The corporation's either trying to kill the runner or score 7 agenda points. So it's this whole deal, and you just there's the whole cat and mouse part of this. I think was the thing that I liked the hidden knowledge because you could set traps and advance them, make them look like
Hmm.
agendas, and then make them bait them to go get it, and then it might kill them or damage them in some way, or
I
it
know
could,
I ask this
yeah,
every time in
uh huh,
relation to that. Does the runner have anything that's hidden?
no,
Because it seems like the edge is towards the corporation. Like, and you're gonna know
um,
this way more than I ever would. But it's like having hidden information is always like better, I feel like.
it is, but like a fully loaded runner, like if you have all the icebreakers out there that covers all the ice, it's going to be really easy to check. And then there's also
Okay.
ways to prevent net damage and brain damage. Like there's cards that you can have in your deal that would prevent you from taking it. Like
Okay.
it's like a shield of some sort. So yeah, it's
And
a
did
risk, but you can run with reckless abandon too and just go for it. You know?
okay. And then did like the core game come with pre-built decks, or did you
Yeah,
have to? You it
yeah. There was oh gosh, I want to say there was 3 runners in the base game and 4 corporation decks.
okay. And
And
were they any good? Because I know like a few years ago, pre-built Magic decks were
mhm.
awful, but then now they've actually become pretty solid,
I
like
mean,
from the get-go.
they were good for a base
Okay.
game, but then I mean, you had years and years of cycles of cards that came out that altered
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I
like
was just kind of like, because you just said that you bought the base game again.
yeah, I rebought the
Okay.
core box just to have
Because
it to play it because
yeah,
it has you know
because I think next time you come up, we should play this and Star Wars Destinies and stuff. And I was like, well, I don't want to build a deck. I don't
oh
want to
no
take the
no
time to build a deck, and I don't want you to build my deck because then you'll just beat me.
nope, it's
You're like,
pre-con.
I
It's
know everything about. I mean, you're gonna know
yeah,
everything about the precons anyway. So
no, it's totally pre-con. So you just pick a corp and a runner and face off back and forth,
cool.
and yeah, I mean, this is still. I just love this game. Still, I miss the competitive nature of it. I'm still looking for that replacement for this,
The
and
new
stuff.
Star
But
Wars, whatever. Isn't
no,
that competitive?
what
Isn't
the
the
deck
Fantasy
builder?
Flight? Yeah, is that competitive?
It is, but it's not it's not It's not.
Yeah,
It's like Ascension, Star Wars.
just just get into Magic.
No, I like LCGs because everybody has the same card pool.
That's right.
You
This
know,
is this
because
is an LCG. Yeah.
yeah. But since Fantasy
Yeah,
Flight
I
doesn't like
think
this Fantasy Flight doesn't like good games anymore, then
no, they like yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Every LCG, competitive LCG they've made has failed. Um, even though it fails because of their business practice.
yeah,
Because I think L5R had a good running.
it did.
Like that went on for about 5 years.
Yeah,
I think maybe a
Game of
little bit.
Thrones went on for quite a while too.
Yeah, but I don't see them doing it again because they see all their failed projects.
Yeah, I'm still just wanting Watsy to take this and put a new theme on it. Because these mechanics could you could use these mechanics with other stuff, man, and I would be all over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell. Never say never.
Yeah. So
All
anyway,
right,
Android Netrunner.
good deal. And the last one for this segment, my number 21 fell just a little bit. Uh, it was number 11 last year, and I know exactly why it rose last year. It's because I played it and had a fantastic game, and it's still this high because I'm still living off that high of the game I played. And this one is my favorite of the trilogy for sure. Taking a quick look. Yes, this is my favorite of the trilogy, and that is Rising Sun. Ankh isn't even fucking considered, and Blood Rage I talked about a little bit earlier, but yeah, Rising Sun, just the feudal Japan theme, the area control, the massive monsters, and the unique combat, just everything in this game sings for me. And even though at this point the Dice Tower has done their top 100, I think Tom was the only one, maybe Mike mentioned this game. I do not get where they are saying this game has no negotiation like that. I mean, unless they're only playing at three, then yeah, there's no negotiation in a three-player game except between two people and one person's fucked. But I I could not disagree more. There's literally a phase called like I think the tea ceremony where it's built around negotiation. Like you can do whatever as long as it's with the person that you are partnered with. So that is a heavy, heavy part of this. Uh, and that's what happened in the last game I played was just after I got done explaining the rules, I'm like, okay, yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Tea ceremony, everyone just boom, like, hey, 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 like, okay, let's offers, boom. Okay, what can we do here? What do you want from me? What can like let's see how it goes. And I was like, like everyone's doing it correctly, like secret messages, walking away from the table, something I very rarely experience was just immediately done. And then happened every single round, every single ceremony was just that. Uh, like the best example was, and I don't even really know if it's 100% in the rules, but it worked for us. So if it's not in the rules, then maybe try it. But like the second tea ceremony, because me and my friend Keith were doing really well as a team, but another guy was just amassing a bunch of money. That was kind of his whole thing was he was taking cards that got him a bunch of money. And second tea ceremony, I was like, okay, let's start negotiation. He looks at me and he's like, I'll give you 10 gold to break your alliance with him. I'm like, deal. Because you need money to do well in combat,
Right.
like money and Ronin. And, and my friend Keith was like, oh, okay. Hey, and went to another person and they started allying. And then third tea ceremony, Keith comes back to me. He's like, okay, what can I do to to ally with you again? It still came to, even though like it came down to the wire, this game just sings on all levels. I love the art, love the big monsters that Blood Rage has, love the unique factions. It's so good. So like, I mean, I love that Tom has it on his list because someone's got to champion this game a little bit more. But to say there's no negotiation that's a group problem, not a game problem.
That's the reason that I don't haven't played this game is because it's negotiation.
I mean I don't know. I guess that's just it's a personality kind of thing of whether or not players like negotiation or not. It doesn't make sense to me why people don't like it, but
I can tell you why. It's because I've played enough negotiation games over the year that people can't they take it too damn seriously and it turns into
mm,
a hate deal when somebody does break an alliance. It's like I don't want to do it.
oh, gotcha.
It's just like it ruins a game night. We've had many game nights ruined because somebody backstabs somebody in it. And it's just like it's just
I see.
what I'm saying? Like if you're
Yeah,
playing with people that understand it and everything, it's fun. But man,
yeah.
I've had some
Well,
rough nights.
well, to actually touch on that, this game does have literally an action you can use to betray someone. But
Mhm.
what's really cool is one, you know that that's available, and so there are are actions you can take to like make it to where that's not a possibility. But even if you are betrayed, your game's not over. Like I know exactly what you're talking about with like
Right.
Game of Thrones, where it's like if someone betrays you, you're just kind of there. That the betrayal action is not aggressive enough to matter.
Right.
Not a whole lot. I mean, yeah, it's still kind of like because whenever you're allied with someone, not only in stuff that you can trade or whatever, uh, each action you pick has like a top and bottom ability. It's like top one is like whatever one or what you can do, and then
Right.
bottom is what everyone else can do. In this, it's the allied partners will get both, and obviously working with another person. So this game actually kind of avoids that situation where if someone betrays you, you're like, great, I'm here for another 3 hours and I'm out of this game.
Right.
So there's a silver lining. I know you're not too keen on this theme, but I think with like the massive monsters and stuff and the tactile nature of this game, I think you would enjoy it.
I'd give it a shot. I mean, I'm not going to say I'll never play it, but
Hmm.
you know,
This does obviously sing well with more. Like
mhm.
I'd say 4 players at the minimum, and I would almost say skip 5, just because I guess one of the downsides of the negotiation is if you if you're playing with odd numbers, someone might
Right.
get left out.
Yeah,
So 4 or 6 do really well.
that'll
So
work.
yeah, that's my number 21, Rising Sun.
All right, so my number 21 was number 10 last year. It was 48 the year before that, so it's kind of bouncing around. This game probably would be higher than 21 if I'd made this list a little bit or later because I've actually played it a couple of times over the last 2 weeks or so, and had a blast playing it. So it's probably going to be around here for quite a while. I know you like this game as well, um, and it even sings more when you add in the expansion, and that is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah, this is a good one.
yeah, this one and Dune always get compared. Dune Imperium always get compared. I where I've played both of them, and Dune isn't a bad game. This one's just so much better. That from the
Yeah,
art to the smoothness of play, um, it's not as clunky. It's they did
not
the
as
right
tight.
thing by throwing the expansion that they did out, adding the starting player powers and the new
Mm,
resource track. I mean, it was a smart expansion because any complaint that people had about this saying, "Oh, the resource track is the way to go," they threw more at it. I mean,
yep.
so it's not one of those games that is solved. I mean, there's plenty of options to play now with different stuff. They even went far enough. CGE did with creating an online solo mode for this,
Mm,
and different stuff like that, like a campaign kind of thing. Uh, this is one of the ones I know it's been done before, but in my mind, this is kind of the best of the whole deck building worker placement uh, deal. You only have 2 workers the whole game. You only have 2 workers, but you just have to be smart about where you place them. Try to maximize and be as economical as you can with those. Using your hand of cards, using just all the extra actions to do different odds and ends with. Um, I mean, this is one of those things. Like I literally, the last game I played this was about a week ago. We just played a 2-player game, and my wife kicked my ass,
you
like
suck.
horribly kicked my ass. I'm talking like by 40 points, like
Jeez.
crashed me. And it's just one of those things, like deck building. You're gonna have the randomest deck building, but your decks aren't that big, and you have that whole thing where when you buy a card, it goes into your deck, you
Yeah.
know, and then when you get a artifact, you actually get to use the ability,
Yep.
and stuff. So that's a benefit with that. And then to reuse that artifact, you actually have to spend tablets to
Hmm.
use them again. You don't get through your deck a ton of times throughout a game of this. Um,
No, not really.
But and I also like how, you know, the game lasts 5 rounds. You'd think
Hmm.
with 5 rounds and only 2 workers per player, it would be a really fast game. Where it's not a super long game, it's still crunchy enough. You know,
Yes.
you have the moon staff moves down, so the more artifacts come out,
Hmm.
the longer the game goes. And
The whole flow of the game is very thematic
mhm,
too. Like
right,
finding the artifact, it's just kind of like a magical thing that it happens to go off, but then you're like, oh shit, the power went away.
right.
Like, and
How
then
the
you
hell
have
do
to
I
like
do it
try to
again?
figure it out. You're way more on like supply cards because you're just getting there, but then you've been there for a while, so now you no longer need those, and you're exploring
Mhm.
the land a lot more. It's just it's very, very smart. And I mean, I don't know. I this is one of those games that the people who hate on it, it just feels like, well, you hate it because the internet told you to hate it. Like the criticisms I get are just so low hanging fruit that it's like, well, you couldn't find an original reason to like it. It's just about going up the research track. It's like, yeah, when you oversimplify it, I can do that to any game.
Well, and even if
Like,
even if that's the case, it's like, yeah, so who's going to do it
right.
faster? You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, you know, ultimately, you're going to have to go out and explore to get more resources to do that
Right.
anyway. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is virtually kind of a race game.
Hmm.
Uh, but for some reason, this one just gets a lot more flack on it than other games that do the same thing.
It's
Like,
probably the Dune people beating it off, or beating off the game they don't like. You know, it's like, well,
yeah,
I love my Dune.
yeah. It's like, okay, like, have you considered that Dune is not that great? That it's a coke-fueled fever dream of one author? Have you
Yeah.
considered that? Have you been taking too much spice? And no, like that's obviously like I've played the Dune Imperium a number of times, and I've even
Mhm.
played it with the first expansion. I was like, oh, this is better. But I was like, I don't get the hype on that one. Like, I think I have it like at a 6 or 7, like
Yeah.
6 base game, 7 with the expansion. I'm like, that's a good score. I don't want to play this all the time. It's very frustrating when it's like I just need to go to one space to do literally anything, and I'm going last, so I'm not going to get to do anything.
Right.
I don't like that type of gameplay.
Yeah.
So if it was kind of like I don't mind tight games, but with Dune, it's like I'm so stunted every fucking time I play, every time, and I've played it like
Mhm.
6 or 7 times. And I do well because it's a race to 10 points. I get like 8 or 9 points. Like I'm doing well, but I'm like fucking I just need one water.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
by the end of the game, I'm like, I have too much water. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. This game's great. And there's a new expansion coming out this year, I think.
Yeah, I'd heard. I don't know what it's really adding. I don't know much about
Same.
it, but yeah, I'd
More.
heard that too.
More.
Exactly.
That's what. So, all right. Well, great choice. Another great segment of games. Now we got 2 more videos, the top 20, then the top 10. So very, very excited to talk about those. Until then, though, let us know what you think of these games in the comments below, and like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.